I'm here with Zoresanai, Tizita, and Meaza, director, actress, and the actual lawyer, all involved in Deferet. Let me start with you. How difficult was it directing this story?
I think it was harder writing it than directing it. Once we had the script, we cast of the right people that we needed for the film. We worked off the camera for a little bit, where we met every day, and then we did this little acting classes where we just came out and talked and role played and whatnot, and we did a table read multiple times, and we just we had conversation, just open conversation about it, So we pick a scene, and it's like, what do you think is that scene about? What happened in that scene? Like, how do you play it? And what and then she would ask me, it's like, like how does she feel? On this, and what do you know about this? Because the story is sort of, it's a real life story. The film is based on a true story, so there are enough publications about it, documented. The court case was documented. Meaza's work, the organization's work, is documented. There were pictures that we could make it look like the actual places and whatnot. So. Getting the right balance in structuring the story in a way, because it's huge. I mean, you can make 10 different movies about that. So how do you tell a compelling story within 90 minutes? That was more of a challenge than actually directing, because once we showed up on set, I gotta tell you, because we were shooting on film. And the problem with film, like, you got to get it right, otherwise you're going to be burning film. So, and most of the time we actually worked. We end up taking the first take or the second take, because it was so easy. We didn't have. I think I was allowed probably 10-to-1 ratio to do the film, but end up probably averaging 4 to 5 takes a setup. So it was very easy.
Wow, knowing the locale, knowing the story, for you to say, it flowed so nicely. Mm-hmm. It seems like it was meant to be. Is that kind of your feeling? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you tell a story, because I know I'm from there. I left when I was 19, but I knew that for most people this is going to be the first time that they're going to be seeing a film in Ethiopia, or about Ethiopia, or about this subject matter, So I wanted that to be I wanted to create a world where in the context of the country, in the context of the culture, the way we see it at home, not necessarily how we perceive it from outside. So the flow of it was very natural lighting. We didn't use that much light. We shot it very neutral tone. We moved the camera a lot. We wanted the audience to feel there, to be there with the actors. So yes, it was deliberately made to give you a sense of being there or belonging there.
I mean, it was wonderful. You got. I love the natural tones like you're talking about. I think it really brought me in. Tizita, for you, how hard was it playing the lead role? The story's very hard. It's I know for me, I wanted to stand up and do something, but there was nothing one could do from the audience standpoint. How hard was it for you when you learned about the story and then portraying this character on film?
It was not really hard. Like, the table readings, this advice, and the other things makes it easy for me. So, but being in the movie was really great.
You like being in the movie?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
When you were making the film, were there some parts ever difficult, like trying to learn a scene or being, out there, in the wilderness? Were there parts that were hard?
Yeah, they were. But I asked people about them, and there were some scenes that I don't understand, like that I don't get. But I asked them all, like around me, they're educated and they're older than me, all of them. So I get advice all the time.
It's wonderful. Yeah. Was there a favorite scene? Was there a scene that you really enjoyed performing, or it was just your favorite scene in the movie?
The scene that I get the flowers and running with my sister.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really awesome.
It's just
That was a lot of fun too. Yeah.
Yeah, singing. It was really cool.
I think that was probably the only part in the film where she's actually her age. You know what I mean? It's just like her playing with her sister, just not really. And then we shot that, remember, like at the end of the day, we were really tired. Half of the crew's already gone to the trucks, and it was really awesome actually. We turned the camera on, and then they started running in there, and then we'd like, oh yeah, can we shoot this all night? So we actually shot it until the sun was down. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So having fun was the best part. That's wonderful. Meaza, the character, the way she portrayed you, so strong, so forceful. I loved how in the film she walked into the offices, and and knowing the culture, but still demanding more, and brilliant. Especially in this day and age, how hard it is in some places to be able to be like that. What in yourself brought that out of you? Was it your life experience, your studies, the injustices you see? That's such a wonderful character. I think anyone can draw strength from that.
Thank you so much. Before I founded the organization, the Lawyers Association, with my other friends, I was working for the government. But I have to say, I sort of discovered myself after we established that organization, and for me it was not like work, it was a passion. And as you said, I was very demanding, not only on people but on myself as well. So that brought a lot of accomplishment. There was that extra passion, extra desire to achieve a goal. And the actors played a wonderful role, and I'm totally amazed about her skills and talent. I'm totally happy about her performance. Yeah.
As I was watching the film, you see how antagonistic, the general and the DA, and I can only assume it was even worse in real life. In film you get that, it's heavy, but in film it's normally toned down. How difficult was it, dealing with them? Were they very verbally abusive? Were they, very, aggressive in their manner in real life?
Yeah, there are challenges even today. And not only at the level of local police station or local, prosecutor's office, but even at the level of the United Nations, there is resistance all the time, because there is this entrenched attitude about the relationship between men and women, the issue of power dynamics, and structural issues. So it's not necessarily police officers in Ethiopia are bad, or district attorney is bad, but it is this value and attitude that men embrace for many years, and even sometimes women themselves, because this is about socialization. That is what they know. So there was a lot of resistance. I was just sharing during the previous interview about when we go to the police station with case where a woman was raped, then they would say, oh, was she a virgin? If she was not a virgin, then you have no case. Or if a woman reports an assault, domestic violence, they would say, oh, is he your husband? Then what's wrong with that? So yes, there was resistance, and that there is still resistance. Yeah.
I mean, it's the whole film. I just found that it really gave you a great glimpse, to that, to what happens around the world. One scene that really grabbed me was when the tribe came together and the men were deciding, you have to, give so many goats, or I'm trying to remember what it was, and they were holding their own court.
Yeah.
To decide.
Right.
And here, you have a legal system that they were dealing with, but now you have to deal with, tradition and, what society, what their group demands. Tell me about that. How difficult was that for you to film,
That's sort of like one of the focal points in this story is the existence of, customary law. The country as a whole has a constitution. We have a constitutional law. Early on, when I was doing the research for the film, I asked Meaza as well, what did you think the biggest problem was when you were trying to get this case sort of public, and why do you think this problem happens still? Is she said the law exists, but enforcement is the biggest problem, right? So then, when you go and see in the villages, the police wouldn't enforce because there's a different kind of law that exists there as well. So I wanted to learn about that. So I've known about this, community courts or traditional courts where usually it's men, women are not included, and I wanted to give sort of an insight in how the tradition works, and why this problem has persisted for generations, is because this kind of courts pass on judgments. If you really think about it, think about the whole case and how it kind of unfolded. Here, on one side, during with the constitutional law, she was acquitted on the basis of self-defense, but the traditional law exiles her from her village, and for in some ways you feel like justice is not done, so portraying that, luckily for me, because it's a practice that we all know, and half of the people in there, except the 2 or 3 actors who got up and spoke, the majority of the people, even those guys themselves, are from a village. They're not from the city, so they understood what was the purpose of that setup, and also in terms of kind of giving you a balance in the story. Also, we kind of saw why they do what they do, So it wasn't difficult at all. In terms of filming it, because I want it to be very natural. And, that's probably one of the very few scenes that we had 3 cameras rolling at the same time, because it was so organic, and most of it, they've all said what was written on the script, but on that scene, I wanted the sort of the story to come out in a way, and because it's a tipping point, right? Until that point, you kind of were like thinking they're monsters, and then when you hear their side of the story, you kind of go, oh, wow, So, no, it wasn't hard at all. It was just, it's one of my favorite scenes, to be honest with you. It's just it gave light to how men thought, in that part of the world.
I think it was wonderfully said, because there's a scene in that scene. Where some of the men are saying, "Well, this is how I got my wife." This is, and it's like, great.
Yeah.
Exactly. Tizita, I wanted to ask you. In the film, you grew up so quickly. You weren't just dealing with the traumatic event; you had to deal with culture, tradition, law, and the character was this tipping point, and how the world, they were going to see their new world. How did that affect you? In your portrayal on the character, the weight of the judicial system was on your shoulders. How did that affect you, and how did you portray that? What were some of your thoughts?
You mean in real life?
You're right. How did you absorb it?
የተሰማሽ አንቺ ፊልሙ ላይ ያለውን ነገር በራስሽ በህይወትሽ ላይ እና በቀደም ትዝ ይልሻል አዲስ አበባ ጥያቄ ስጠይቅሽ ላይክ ምን ማለት ነበር ላንቺ መሳተፉ? ምንድነው ያወቅሽው? ስለ ጠለፋ፣ ስለ ሴቶች፣ ስለ ምንድን ነበር ያወቅሽው? በእንግሊዝኛ ነገር
ያወቅሽው
የተማርሽው?
I learned that I have to get courage like she has, and I have to be strong, because still we have the harassments there, the insultings. So I was not thinking about that at all before the movie, but it makes me to think about it and like to defend myself, to be strong.
Awesome.
Wonderful. What a great answer. It was perfect. And I love that. It was so organic. That was great. Just a couple more questions. Meaza, for you, now at this point, the verdict was in her favor. How much has changed? Has there been a willingness in the traditional way of thinking to accept, well, there's another point of view. We can't really do this. And in the judicial system, are they more accepting of cases like this? And has there been a change, or is it kind of the same?
There are changes here and there, but we are not at that tipping point level yet. We have the law in place, we have policies, but still enforcement is a challenge, because our institutions are not strong enough. Our public education program is not entrenched enough, and women are not empowered, especially in the rural areas. So I'm not sure if there are cases of abduction going to the court, and this case landed in the court is because of the work of the Women Lawyers Association. We knew about this case from the media, and we decided to take this case, and we wanted to use it as a precedent setting. We wanted this case to be an example, and that it serves that purpose. But Ethiopia is a country of 90 million people. Communication is very weak, and as we speak now, we don't know what's happening in some corner of the country. So in a nutshell, yes, there is a progress, but it's not fast enough.
And just one last question. Same question for all of you. What would you like the audience to walk away with at the end of the film? You want them thinking about, the judicial system, the difficulty of women in the country. What would you like them to walk away with? They're walking out the door and they're thinking, "Wow, this." What would you like to?
This is a story of hope to me. This film is so inspiring. So encouraging. I hope that we look into our own traditions, our own culture. Abduction for marriage is a form of violence, and even though it doesn't happen in some parts of the world, the fact that it is violence against women is something that we can all relate to, and it's a problem in every corner of the world. So my hope is that we will walk away from the film learning that we need to build a culture of courage that we need to speak up, we need to stand up for other people, even though they're far away from us.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Tizita, how about you? What would you like the audience to think when they're leaving the theater?
I want them to learn that they should respect their wives, their daughters, and other girls and women. And like in women's, I want them to think that they can do whatever thing that they want, like Hero did. That's
Wonderful. Meaza?
I don't want to place any burden on anyone, but on the other hand, I want people to really reflect and know that, you know, people living in the West, in Europe or America, that they should not take for granted the liberty that they have here. For girls just to go to school and to change their life, I hope this film will give them a full understanding of what they go through. And I think that is enriching to the people who watch this film, because they will learn something very profound as human beings.
Wonderful, wonderful. Tizita, Meaza, it was a wonderful film. You know, thank you for taking the time, and congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.